Mom tried to secretly put my newborn son up for adoption because she was convinced my baby would steal the spotlight from my sister's wedding. So, I got the law involved, and now she's got a conviction to her name. My sister's getting married at the end of this year, and just about 3 weeks ago, I gave birth to my son. Everyone was thrilled about the new addition to the family. Well, everyone except my mom. Honestly, I wasn't even shocked. To her, nothing, and I mean nothing, comes before her precious little angel, my younger sister. I had gotten pregnant a good while back, and around the time I hit 6 months, my sister got engaged to her boyfriend of 3 years. Anyone with basic math skills could figure out that by the time her wedding rolled around, I'd already have had my baby. Now, if my sister had been the type to want a quick, low-key wedding, maybe there would have been a timing clash. But she had her heart set on a big, fancy affair. And both she and her fiancé had made it crystal clear from the start that they wanted to take their time planning it all out. Still, not even 2 weeks after their engagement, my mom popped up at my house looking all anxious and stressed. She sat me down and said she needed to talk, and then dropped the bomb. She wanted me to do something about my pregnancy because she didn't want my sister getting upset. Thing is, my sister and I, we're not close at all. Never have been. She's always been a spoiled little brat. Ever since our dad passed away a couple of years back, we pretty much cut ties altogether. The only reason I kept any connection with Mom after Dad died was because I had made a promise to him. He made me swear I'd look after her, since he didn't believe my sister would step up, and honestly, he was right. She's never been the responsible type. Even though Mom's always favored my sister by a mile, I still tried to have some kind of relationship with her. That is, until recently, when she showed up with the good news that my sister was engaged and getting married. At first, I figured she just wanted to share the news and maybe be a little excited. But nope, she quickly shifted gears and told me that since I was due to give birth the same year as my sister's wedding, it would steal the limelight. Apparently, in her mind, a baby was a bigger deal than a wedding. Honestly, I had no idea what she was even talking about. I told her straight up she was being ridiculous. No one was going to skip a wedding because I'd had a kid. Plus, it's not like I was even invited to the wedding to begin with. She hadn't come to mine, either, because, well, we aren't friends and we don't pretend to be. So, there was literally no chance I'd upstage anything. I wouldn't even be in the building. Mom and my sister had absolutely nothing to worry about. And besides, it's not like I'm some celebrity or influencer. Even if I was somehow present, no one at her wedding would be running around talking about me and my newborn. It just wasn't going to happen. I thought I had made some pretty solid points, but Mom wasn't hearing it. She flat out told me I needed to hide my pregnancy, and later, hide my baby too, from the whole family and all our mutual friends. She didn't want my sister's special day getting overshadowed. I thought she had completely lost her mind. We had a huge blowout fight, and after that, I stopped speaking to her. It broke my heart a little because it felt like I was breaking the promise I made to Dad. But I honestly didn't see any other option. She was being aggressive, cruel even, and I was already dealing with enough as a pregnant woman. I couldn't deal with her madness on top of everything else. Since then, she hasn't been around for anything. It's just been me, my husband, and his amazing family, taking care of everything, getting through it all together. She wasn't even there when my son was born. My husband actually called her when I went into labor, but she blew us off. She said she was busy out with my sister. And honestly, even if she hadn't been out that day, I'm pretty sure she still would have found some excuse not to show up. I just wasn't a priority anymore, and that's the harsh reality I had to accept. If she could walk away from her own daughter during one of the biggest moments of my life, just because she was scared I'd steal a little attention away from my sister, well, that told me everything I needed to know. So yeah, we had zero contact after that, and honestly, I was fine with it. Life was better without all that toxic energy. But then, a few days ago, my phone started blowing up. Mom was calling over and over, and when I didn't pick up, she started texting like crazy, begging me to answer because she needed to talk about something important. At first, I didn't want to hear it. I figured it was just more drama. But then I thought about Dad and the promise I made him, and I gave in. I picked up the call. And man, I'm glad I did, because that's when I found out just how deep she'd dug herself into trouble. Turns out, she was in serious legal trouble. She had tried to put my baby up for adoption behind our backs, without mine or my husband's consent, and the adoption agency caught her red-handed. Apparently, she had gone to an agency and lied through her teeth, told them she had power of attorney over us. She said that both me and my husband were addicts who had been declared unfit by the courts, and that she, as the custodial caretaker, was putting our baby up for adoption. Of course, it didn't take long for the agency to realize that none of her paperwork was real. Everything she handed over was completely fake. They shut it all down immediately and decided to escalate things legally. Basically, she was calling me because she was scared out of her mind. The agency had told her they were going to press charges, and she would be served papers any day now. She wanted to tell me herself before the agency reached out, and I heard it from them instead. She was crying her eyes out on the phone, begging me to help her. But honestly, I couldn't even wrap my head around the fact that she thought I would lift a finger for her after everything she had done. Look, I could kinda understand that Mom wanted my sister to have all the attention on her big day, but trying to put my newborn up for adoption? That was beyond wrong. It was downright disgusting. Honestly, it was a pretty dumb move, too, because if anything, all it did was bring even more attention to me, exactly the thing she supposedly wanted to avoid. Now, I'm planning on suing her myself. After she finished explaining the whole crazy situation to me on the phone, I didn't even say a word. I just hung up. I had absolutely nothing left to say to her. I didn't feel even a shred of sympathy for her. In fact, part of me felt like she had earned every bit of what was coming her way and probably even deserved worse. Later that same day, the adoption agency reached out to me directly. They wanted to officially inform me about everything that had happened and to guide me through the next steps. My husband and I had already talked about it after Mom's phone call, and after speaking with the agency too, we both decided we weren't going to let this slide. There was no way we could just turn a blind eye to what she tried to do. We met with a lawyer the very next day, and within just a few days, we had filed a civil lawsuit against her. But that's not even the end of it, given how serious everything was. Criminal charges were filed against her too. So at this point, there's hardly any room left for mediation or compromise. The best she can hope for now is maybe an out-of-court settlement for the civil side of things, or a plea deal for the criminal charges. But even then, there's a real possibility she could be facing jail time. Right now, she's under house arrest. She still has access to her phone and email, though, which is why she's been bombarding me with email after email, practically begging me to help her. At least she's apologizing, I'll give her that. She's admitted she lost control, that she got carried away because she was so upset I wouldn't hide my pregnancy and baby for my sister's sake. She knows she messed up bad, and she says she's sorry. I had managed to ignore all her desperate emails up until yesterday, but then she hit me right where it hurt. She brought up my dad. She reminded me about the promise I made to him, that no matter what, I would always look out for her. And that caught me completely off guard, because that conversation with my father was private. I didn't even realize she knew about that promise. And now? I'm stuck at a crossroads, choosing between sticking to my civil lawsuit or honoring a deathbed promise to my father. But after a lot of thinking, I decided I'm not dropping the lawsuit. Not now. Not for this. She brought this all on herself, and I'm not going to back down just because she decided to play dirty and guilt-trip me. I took that promise to my dad seriously. I really did. For years, I tried so hard to live up to it. But at this point, it's nothing but emotional manipulation, and honestly, it's some of the most ruthless emotional manipulation I've ever experienced. For a second, it almost worked. Almost. Using my father's memory to try to get herself out of trouble? That's just low. Even for her. I know some people have criticized me, saying I should have let go of that promise long ago, that I should have seen my mother for who she really was. That it was obvious she never cared about me the way she should have. But unless you've lost a parent, you probably don't get it. That kind of grief changes you. I lost my dad to cancer. That promise I made, it wasn't casual. It was something I said while holding his hand, sitting at his bedside as he was dying. That kind of thing sticks with you. That's why I put up with so much from my mom for so long. I kept trying. I kept hoping. But this crossed a line that I can't unsee. Now that I've made up my mind, there's no turning back, not for anyone. My husband agrees, too. He thinks I'm doing the right thing, and having his support means the world to me. And honestly, I'm not even trying to bankrupt her or anything. All I'm asking for is reimbursement for the money I've spent taking care of her these past few years, because let's be real, my sister wasn't lifting a finger to help her. Not financially, not emotionally, not in any way. In fairness, my sister doesn't spend money on anyone except herself. So, it's not really a shock. It's probably exactly why my dad asked me to be the one to look after Mom in the first place. But even he couldn't have predicted something like this happening. I'm sure that wherever he is now, he'll forgive me for this decision. And even if he doesn't, I have to do this for my own peace of mind and to protect my family. I've thought it through, and I know asking her to pay me back isn't going to destroy her financially. Dad left her the house and a good amount of money before he passed. She's going to be fine. And besides that, she's got her brother, my uncle, to lean on if she ever really needs help. She's not going to be left out on the streets or anything dramatic like that. Even if she does somehow lose everything because of the lawsuit, it's no longer my concern. Because I have done everything I possibly could, and none of it was ever enough for her. I'm done trying to be the good daughter. Now I'm a mother, and my son is my one and only priority. So far, it's been a disaster. Every session we've had has ended the same way. My mother gets all emotional, starts screaming and crying, and we have to shut everything down. I honestly can't tell if she's genuinely losing it or if it's just a tactic to stall things. Either way, it's not going to change the outcome. She still hasn't figured out that there's no easy way out of this for her. My uncle has even started reaching out to me, begging me to back off. He says the amount I'm asking for in the settlement is too much and unfair. He also gave me this whole speech about how she raised me when I was a baby and how I'm being ungrateful for not forgiving her over one stupid little mistake. The thing is, she didn't just act out in some heat-of-the-moment craziness. She went and filed fake paperwork. I mean, that takes planning. You don't just whip up forged documents because you're emotional. It was all premeditated, and honestly, that's the part that scares me the most. Because if, by some stroke of bad luck, the adoption agency hadn't done their job properly, she might have actually gotten away with it. And the more I sit with that thought, the harder it gets to even think about forgiving her. No amount of money could ever really make up for what she did to us. Honestly, I'm being way more generous than she deserves by only asking for what I already spent on her these past few years, not a penny more. Of course, that little detail isn't spelled out anywhere in the paperwork, so my uncle has no clue. Even after I mentioned it to him, though, he still said I was being incredibly unfair. After a while, the conversation started heating up, and I could feel myself getting more and more frustrated. I really didn't want to ruin my relationship with my uncle. Up until now, we'd actually gotten along pretty well. But it was clear he wasn't going to back down, and he seemed hell-bent on picking a fight. So, eventually, I snapped too. I told him that if he was so worried about his sister, maybe he should just cough up the money himself. That way, we could wrap this up a whole lot faster. That's when he lost it. He started yelling at me, calling me all sorts of nasty names. I ended the call right there. There was no point in dragging it out. Honestly, I don't even understand how anyone could still defend her at this point, knowing everything she tried to pull. On one side, I've got my uncle breathing down my neck. On the other, there's my sister, who's been absolutely insufferable ever since she found out about the lawsuit. For some reason, she's decided to spin this whole thing into me being the villain, saying I'm only doing this to get revenge on her and Mom for not giving me enough attention. At least my uncle had the guts to call me and say it to my face. My sister, on the other hand, has been running her mouth behind my back, gossiping with anyone who'll listen. Thanks to her, now half the family knows about the lawsuit and all the ugly details. That's the last thing I wanted. I never intended to broadcast all this. It's personal, it's messy, and frankly, it's embarrassing. But because of her big mouth, people started reaching out to me with questions. And even though I really didn't want to get into it, I realized I had no choice because if this goes to court, I might need some of these people to testify. So I'm trying to look at the bright side. Maybe it's better it came out now instead of later when it could have been an even bigger mess. The thing that really bugs me, though, is the way my sister's been twisting the story. She's painting me like some petty, vindictive person, out for revenge. But honestly, I don't even think she gets how serious what Mom did really was. This isn't some dumb sibling rivalry that's gotten out of hand. This is my mother trying to steal my child. And maybe I shouldn't be surprised, because if there's anyone who could be that selfish and clueless, it's my sister. She's her mother's daughter, through and through. Talking with the rest of the family, it's actually kind of funny when you think about it. All of this drama started because my mom wanted my sister's wedding to be the biggest event of the year. She wanted everything to be perfect, to be all about my sister, even if it meant sweeping my baby under the rug. But because of her own awful choices, this whole scandal is now the family highlight. Not just for this year, probably for a long time to come. I hate to say it, but from a gossip standpoint, it's juicy as hell. If I wasn't the one living through it, I might even be entertained myself. It's a little trashy to admit, but honestly, it's a kind of poetic justice. Now, not even my sister's wedding can top the circus. Anyway, here's the latest. My mother has finally agreed to our terms. We'll be getting the settlement money soon. But that's just the civil side of things. She's still facing criminal charges, and as far as I know, things aren't looking good for her. Right now, she and her lawyer are scrambling, trying everything they can to avoid jail time. But it's not going great. From what I've been told, the prosecution has already asked me to testify, and the folks from the adoption agency too. We'll see how that plays out. On top of that, even my sister and a few other family members who are close to the situation have been contacted by the prosecution. So things are moving forward whether my mother likes it or not. In the middle of all this, we managed to sneak away for a short weekend trip with our son. We went to visit his great-grandparents, not mine, they're long gone, but my husband's grandparents, who are still around and kicking. It was a much-needed break. While we were there, we sat down with them and talked about everything that's been happening. I opened up about the guilt I'd been carrying, how bad I felt for breaking my promise to my dad. But they were so kind. They told me that I was absolutely doing the right thing, that if my dad were still around, he probably would have encouraged me to take this stand. Hearing that really lifted a huge weight off my shoulders. I guess I didn't realize just how much I needed to get away and clear my head, because when we got back, I felt so much more grounded. This whole experience has been exhausting, no lie. Even though my mom and I have had our issues before, nothing, and I mean nothing, ever got this ugly. In the last couple of mediation sessions with our lawyers, it finally seemed like Mom figured out that throwing tantrums and storming out wasn't going to help her case. She probably realized that if we didn't reach a settlement, we'd end up going to court, and that could turn out even worse for her. I'm guessing her lawyer gave her a serious reality check because she started acting a lot more restrained. She barely said a word, letting her lawyer handle everything. She wouldn't even really look at me. And when she did glance over, it was quick, like she physically couldn't bring herself to look me in the eye. And honestly, good. She doesn't deserve to look at me anymore, not after everything she tried to do. Meanwhile, my uncle and sister are still out there, bad-mouthing me to the rest of the family. But at this point, I honestly don't care. The people who truly support me will stay by my side no matter what. And the ones who are just there for the gossip? Well, they'll just sit on the sidelines and watch. They're no threat to me. As long as they're keeping their distance, they can say whatever they want. Words don't change the truth, and I know exactly where I stand. Anyway, it's been a little over a month since my last update, and there's been some progress. My mother finally agreed to our terms, and a couple of weeks ago, we got the settlement money. We decided to put every penny aside for our son's future. We're managing just fine without it right now, and honestly, it feels good to know it's being used for something that really matters. At the end of the day, it was money we were owed, money I had spent supporting her over the past few years after my dad passed away. My sister knows that too. She knows exactly where that money came from. But despite that, she showed up at my house the other day, full of rage, accusing me of ruining her wedding. Apparently, Mom had promised to pay for part of the wedding, and now, because of the lawsuit, she couldn't follow through. And somehow, all of that was my fault. It was absolutely ridiculous. She even admitted, while yelling at me, that I had taken back the money that she had taken from me. So it's not like she didn't understand the situation. She just didn't care. She still thought I was the villain. When she showed up, I didn't even let her inside the house. I spoke to her through the door. And the second she started raising her voice, I slammed the door shut in her face. I didn't have time for her drama. I was already stretched thin, working from home during maternity leave, trying to stay ahead with my job so I wouldn't drown when I returned full-time. And on top of that, caring for a newborn around the clock. I just didn't have the energy to deal with her tantrums. But even after I shut the door, she wouldn't leave. She stayed outside, screaming and making a scene. After a while, I got fed up. I called the cops. They showed up within minutes, and while they were dragging her away, she started shouting every kind of curse and insult she could think of. It was loud enough that the neighbors, who I'm sure had been peeking through their windows, actually came outside to watch the spectacle. It was beyond embarrassing. And worse than that, during her rant, she made some very concerning threats about me and about my baby. I won't even repeat the awful things she said, but it made me feel genuinely unsafe. The second I hung up with the police, I had called my husband, and he rushed home earlier than usual. When he got there, I told him everything she had screamed while being hauled off. One of the officers actually pulled us aside and suggested we file for a restraining order because clearly something wasn't right with her anymore. We agreed immediately. There's no way I'm taking any chances, not when it comes to my son. Thinking about it now, it's not just my mom. My sister knows exactly where we live, and she knows every way to reach me. If she really wanted to cause trouble, she easily could. I'm not saying she definitely will, but just the possibility is enough. And now that I'm a mom, I can't afford to ignore those risks. I have to protect my little boy, no matter what. After a long talk with my husband, we made a big decision. We're moving. I was already planning to change my phone number and update my contact info anyway. Lately, I've been getting nonstop calls and messages from people who just want to gossip. It's exhausting and, frankly, a little gross. So moving gives us a clean break, a fresh start. And the last thing I need is random people showing up, trying to get the latest scoop. My husband's been doing well at work, and if we need it, we can always ask his parents for help. But one way or another, we're getting out of here. And yes, we're absolutely going to file for that restraining order against my sister, too. She's clearly lost it, and I don't want her anywhere near us. Financially, it's been tough lately. Between the legal fees, the new baby, and now the move, the money's going fast. Things are tighter than they've been in a long time. But when I think about my son, I know it's all worth it. I'm just tired. Tired of the drama. Tired of being dragged into chaos when all I want is peace. But for him, for my little boy, I'll do whatever it takes. Honestly, The only two people keeping me sane right now are my husband and my son. They're my motivation, the reason I keep pushing forward, trying to be better every single day. I probably don't say it enough, but I'm incredibly lucky to have found a partner who truly gets me. He's been my rock through all of this. And honestly, his family has been amazing too, standing by me every step of the way. After my dad passed away, it was mostly my in-laws who showed up for me. Way more than my own mother ever did, that's for sure. And I know not everyone gets lucky with their in-laws, so I'm genuinely grateful every single day for the support they've given us. It's been a messy, exhausting few months, and at this point, all I'm hoping for is for it all to finally wrap up. Anyway, big news. Last week, the verdict from my mother's trial finally came in. She was convicted on all charges. Since this was her first offense, she managed to avoid jail time, but she's not exactly walking away scot-free. Here's what she's been ordered to do. Pay a hefty fine as restitution, both to the adoption agency and to me. Complete a whole bunch of community service hours. Attend court-mandated mental health treatment and rehabilitation. Apparently, her lawyer leaned hard into the mental health issues angle, which is probably what helped her dodge actual prison time. So no, she won't be behind bars, but her life's definitely not going back to normal anytime soon. I haven't been in contact with her since we settled the civil case. And honestly, I have zero interest in changing that. I actually found out about her conviction through a few family members who felt like updating me. And you know what? It feels fair. On top of all that, I managed to secure a restraining order against my sister shortly after my last update, another big win for me and my family. Right now, we're right in the middle of moving houses. It's been stressful, for sure, but nothing we can't handle. Thanks to the settlement money and the restitution payments coming in, we're in a much better place financially. It's been a huge weight off our shoulders. Looks like we won't even need to ask my in-laws for help after all. And we won't have to dip into the savings we set aside for our son's future, which was a huge concern for us. Honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it feels like everything worked out in our favor. Even though Mom managed to escape jail, her personal life has completely fallen apart. I've been hearing plenty of gossip, and people have even sent me screenshots of my sister's recent social media posts. And let me tell you, there's something else. Now she's out here acting like she had no idea what Mom was up to, claiming she doesn't support anything our mom did and saying she deserves to be convicted. Which is hilarious, because not that long ago, she was standing shoulder to shoulder with Mom, painting me as the villain. But now that her fiancé and his family started second-guessing whether they even wanted to go through with the wedding, well, suddenly, my sister's throwing Mom under the bus to save her own image. From what I've heard, they were even talking about postponing the wedding because of all the drama. So now she's out here trying to save face, pretending she was always on the right side. Honestly, it sucks for my mother. In a way, she spent her whole life worshipping my sister. She would have done anything for her. And now that she's down and out, my sister cut her off without a second thought. It's sad, but honestly, it's also exactly what she deserves. And I don't feel bad for her. Not anymore. Now that we're getting ready to move, I'm looking forward to starting fresh away from all this chaos and all these toxic people. And honestly, I can't wait.